Hello everyone, this is KC Towns coming to you from the place where underdogs are always expected to win, kctowns.com. Hey, last week was incredible. Last week I had the pleasure of hosting an awesome event simply titled Panel for Purpose. Each day that I spoke about the event, I referenced the event as your panel for purpose. Now, my reason was and continues to be that the focus and the goal of the Panel for Purpose event is to share the panel's thoughts and ideas about what we all can do to create positive social change. I'm pleased to announce that we're going to have a follow-up to the first event, which was incredible, within the next 35 days. I'll be announcing the time and enrollment information. That's important, the time and enrollment information. So stay tuned to my KC Towns Facebook and YouTube pages, and I'll also be sharing information of the event on my Instagram page, which is now titled KC Towns 1. Here's a short sample of the Panel for Purpose event that we just had. Tonight's event is focused on a couple of things, but one of the things that we're really focused on is real positive social change.
We've got to have some level of a protocol, and we've got to have a level of understanding of an organization to trust one another. If you're out in the streets and you can't trust the people that you're organizing with or walking with, you shouldn't be walking with them, because we've seen over and over again that they're disruptors, distractors, and detractors out in some of these movements. And so I just want everybody to understand that you've got to be clear on why you're in the streets and who you're in the streets with.
First of all, I watched the murder of the brother over on 38th in Chicago, George Floyd, and that touched us, touched me, touched everybody in a way that we can't go back from.
So protest has to lead to policy change, which means that we hold government accountable to giving justice. But bigger than that, protest has to lead to power change, where we began to engage in economic enterprise in the area we live in and reinvest our profit in that environment where we share space and time so that we can have a community instead of a colony.
And then like almost immediately, my guy cut the music off and said, yo, look, he said, stop. We're not here for that. We're not here to have a party. We're not here to barbecue. We're not here to dance. We're here because we need to remember why we are here, what the mission is. The mission is a black man was just publicly executed right there 50 feet from where we're standing. And this is not a time to party. This is a time to acknowledge the problems in our country and in our city.
I said this on CNBC some weeks ago, and I stand by it, which is that hopefully the end of this, especially for young people who have lots of energy and who are so passionate to see our country change for the better, one of the ways to do that is to make sure that we get the legislative remedy that we need, which is some kind of national police reform legislation, especially as it relates to the use of excessive force. If you have national legislation that mandates what police officers may or may not do, especially with regards to excessive force, then we will have accomplished something concrete.
Also, it's important to have a civil service committee of residents so they could be involved in the hiring of the police officers and kind of just knowing what's going on in that police department. Transparency is what I ran on. I'm still drilling it into this day. And eventually our hopes is we keep trying to get it passed, but Allegheny County, the county that we reside in.
Police officers have a record at their last place of employment. I had no doubt what that was until I'm in this capacity as mayor and the police chief reports to me. I assure you, no one who shouldn't be out there is not going to get what they deserve on their record. We only have one of my original police officers still with us.
Now, as obviously the cameras are off in Minneapolis, meaning that we're not getting the nightly reports on major media about what's going on in the street. So thank you for sharing with us real talk about what's happening on the ground.
I just thought in trying to get out of here, going to the airport, that's what was going to happen.
So, man, Al, you were on scene when Sandra Bland was arrested. Is that what I just...
Yes, sir. My barbershop was right across the street. Renee had just cut my hair and I stepped out.
If all people do is protest, then you have a organized outdoor venting session that allows people to yell and get off their chest the way they feel, but nothing changes.
At the end of it, if the protest can lead to legislative change to fix the problem so that it doesn't happen anymore, so that we don't have to march next year because another person of color was killed, then we've achieved our purpose by way of proper legislative remedy.
Sometimes the police aren't the ones that we need to send. And that's what we've been noticing, is that we have started our own mentality that we can protect ourselves if we have qualified people in places to respond to situations.
And you can't legislate a person who's been trained to kill, okay? And so, unfortunately, what has to happen is there has to be a complete breakdown of the police departments all over the country. There has to be demilitarization.
To create a database of information that kind of like follows these officers. Like you can see any complaint that's been filed against said officer, because right now you have to rely on these officers in an interview setting to say, I did this or I did that. And of course, if it's going to cost them getting that job, they're not going to be upfront with it.
We have people that have marched before, marching with us right now. In Bloomington, I had marchers that were 10 and 20 years older than me and 10 and 20 years younger than me. It's all the people. And one thing we do say when we're holding the rallies before the march, this isn't a spectacle. This isn't a sideshow.
We've hired several. I personally sought out, away from my council. I make the appointment, they ratify it. But I went through a lot of applications and I was looking for someone who understood and cared. We now have our first Hispanic police chief in the city of Prairie View's history. Former military policeman, like some of the folks in my family, and a retired Dallas police officer. And guess what? I made sure I knew he worked in our African-American and Hispanic neighborhoods.
There has to be a reallocation of resources because I guarantee in everyone's city budget, if you were to look into your city budget, you will see over 3/4 of your city budget, it probably goes to public safety.
There's certainly lots that has to happen in order for the country to be better, in order for us to understand each other better, in order for people to be treated like they're human beings, like they're men and women. But certainly legislatively, if you have at least a minimum standard with regard to the use of excessive force that says, for instance, that you cannot, one of the things that no policeman anywhere can do is put his or her knee on somebody's neck and cut off their airway. That's at least a federal mandate that has to be followed. And that's a legislative remedy to at least that one issue, the issue of the use of excessive force. There's lots more to be done.
We know what I'm saying? We should be de-escalating and protecting situations, not policing. And that's what their mentality is, to always engage first, ask questions later. Well, we need to change that whole mentality in America. We need more information, not less information, before we start pulling triggers and start tasering people and shooting tear gas.
Right. And that takes money away from the environment. That takes money away from education. That takes money away from housing. So if your community is investing heavily in policing, then what you're going to get? You're going to get a police state in your community.
And witnessing Sandra Bland's incident didn't help me at all. I mean, I relived my own handcuffing at the hands of Los Angeles police departments and being surrounded and having guns pointed at me. And I'd never been to jail to even visit. And the dehumanizing of being, made to get on your knees at gunpoint and you don't want to do anything but what they tell you, because if one of them sneeze, there's no telling what might happen and I might not be here.
Whoever is protesting does not see protesting as the finish line. It is not the end, it is only the beginning.
We're not supposed to always agree, but we are supposed to be a collective of active people fighting for change and justice. So look to the positive in each leader's message tonight, because leadership is trusting all of us right back. They're trusting us too. Now that was just a sample of the incredible interaction that took place on July 29th at Panel for Purpose. I want you to email me here at kc@kctowns.com. For any questions you might have about the upcoming event, stay plugged in to kctowns.com for any event changes or any updates. And by all means, stay COVID safe. All my best.